we doing? We're doing another pickup comparison. We're doing P90s and Mini Humbuckers, which is why I've got my Gibson Les Paul Special. It's nice when a guitar shouts at you, yeah, play this. But I don't really find either of them especially inspiring. What are we going to play this week? If in doubt, bluesy bollocks it is. Guitaristas is proudly supported by Gear for Music. Hello, thanks for joining us. Welcome to the Guitaristas. It's good to see you again. So this week, another pickup comparison. Last week we did the P90 versus PAF. It wasn't a real PAF, it was a burst bucker, it was a humbucker. In the SG, the 61 SG. Thanks to all of you that participated in the raffle, bought tickets to the raffle for the SG to support the channel and a bit of charity. Yeah, the winner, the lucky winner, was Brian Farris. Guess where Brian lives? Yeah, you got it. Michigan, United States. So the SG's now, well actually, I shipped it yesterday. It's flown over the pond and it's just landed at JFK. So it's on its way. A little tip for you, if you ship guitars, put an Apple AirTag in. They're brilliant. You can see where it is. I mean, obviously you get tracking, which is good. You can follow it, but, well, I was saying sometimes, it always gets lost for days in customs and you never quite know where it actually is. Put an Apple AirTag in there, you know exactly. You'll never lose your guitar again, unless someone steals the AirTag. Anyway, so yeah, congrats, Brian. We're keeping our fingers crossed. Obviously, that it's a straightforward entry to the States. That rarely happens, but you never know. Anyway, yeah, thanks to everyone that took part. Sorry you didn't win. Next time maybe we'll do another one. Couple of months probably we'll do one. Right, sorry, I'm fiddling. Look, I'm fiddling with my grub screw. This grub screw on this Epiphone. That's annoying me, that. Look, it's come loose. It's not because it's an Epiphone. Yeah, I don't tend to have that problem with Gibsons. This is a Gibson, that's not loose. Epiphone grub screws. Yeah, it's not great. Shut up, Cole. What are we doing? We're doing another pickup comparison. We're doing P90s, which is why I've got the Epiphone Les Paul Special DC out, and Mini Humbuckers, which is why I've got my Gibson Les Paul Special SC out. They're fundamentally the same guitars. They're a big slab of mahogany. They've both got rosewood balls. They've both got the Gibson headstock. And they've both got the same Gibson aluminium wrap tailpiece. Probably similar wiring, different pickups. That's the point, yeah. We'll get to it. We'll get to it in a sec. They're different pickups. They're P90s and they're Mini Humbuckers. And this week we're going to compare the difference, see if we can hear the difference. There won't be a lot of technical insight into how they're made, but a little bit of history and a lot of hearing to see if we can hear the difference. Yeah, the guitars are fundamentally the same, big slab of mahogany. So any kind of difference we can pretty much put down to the pickups, can't we? So that's what we're going to do this week. As always, I'll go on a little bit unnecessarily. So there's timestamps in the description box if you want to skip forward and just hear what they sound like or whatever. You can do that. If you've got a little bit of time on your hands, please do go and put the kettle on and make yourself a nice beverage of your choice. Get some nibbles, come back, and let's chill out and nerd out over pickups again. Yeah, let's do it. We'll start with a bit of brief history. Firstly, the P90. Invented in 1946 by Walt Fuller at Gibson. When Gibson started making guitars back after the Second World War, they wanted something to replace the earlier Charlie Christian single coil, which I think I read that was a little bit heavy and you know, cumbersome. So they were looking for something a little bit lighter weight. Walt Fuller invented the P90, which was used, well, pretty much in all Gibson guitars, I think, for the next decade, until 1957, until Seth Lover come along and invented the PAF, which replaced it for several years in a lot of their guitars. Now, going back to 1957, Gibson acquired Epiphone. At the time, Epiphone had a pickup that looked like a mini humbucker, but was actually a single coil pickup, and that was called a New Yorker. There's a picture of it. Looks the same, doesn't it? Some stuff online says that Epiphone invented the mini humbucker. My version is I don't think that's true. Epiphone had the New Yorker, but Seth Lover was looking for a humbucker which was smaller than the PAF, because he actually was thinking that it was a little bit cumbersome itself. So he'd been working on a mini humbucker and came up with this, 1961, okay, which conveniently fitted into all of the slots that the New Yorker had been taken up, because the stock had run out. Gibson acquired all of the stock from Epiphone, including all the pickups. They ran out of them, so they were able to replace them with their own Seth Lover designed mini humbucker, which also fitted conveniently into the P90 slots, as you can see. I think the surround for the mini humbuckers was actually just created from a P90 cover with a hole cut in it. But it was good. So they had some, what do they call that now? Hang on, there'll be a pause while I think of it, and I'll do that for a bit. I can't think of it anyway, but it's kind of modular, isn't it? They're kind of interchangeable. So P90s, New Yorkers, mini humbuckers, all interchangeable. Okay, before we go any further, let's take some pickup readings. We'll start with the P90s, all controls on 10. Bridge P90, 7.97K. Just going to make a note of these so I don't forget them. Inductance, 6.31 Henrys. Over to the neck, 7.93K with an inductance of 6.39 Henrys. Middle, just for fun. I need to switch that one. 3.98K. A lot of people last week, when we did the readings for the humbucker versus the P90, commented that I'm left-handed. Yes, I am. I'm left-handed. I'm a lefty. I just dodged a bullet. When I first picked up my guitar at the age of 13, I picked it off the wall of a local music shop with absolutely no idea that there were such a thing as left-handed guitars. So I just learnt that way. I dodged a bullet, didn't I? Right, over to the mini humbucker. Ooh. On the bridge, 6.34K with an inductance of 2.78 Henrys. And the neck, 6.19. Okay. 2.80 Henrys. Middle reading, 3.13K. Okay, well, that should be interesting. Numbers are all a lot lower, quite a lot lower, aren't they, than those? So I wonder if we'll hear that. Now, last week we heard not a lot of difference between the P90 and the PAF, or the burstbucker that we were using last week. But there was a little bit, there was a difference. I think we all agreed that the humbucker was a little bit more compressed. P90 was a little bit rawer. And again, non-technical, because it's got quite a wide coil, the P90, it seems to pick up more bass and more mids, okay? It's quite a, it's got a certain roar to it. The Mini Humbucker is known for, because it's got a narrower coils than the PAF, as being brighter. That's what we're hoping to hear today. I think there's going to be more of a difference between these two. So what I'm going to do now is stop talking, plug them in, and let's come back and have a play and see what the difference is. Let's do it. Right, here we go. Same rig as always. I'm using the Princeton 65 again. So you can hear how these pickups push it compared to with everything else we've done for years, probably. Yeah, rarely do anything different. For that reason, really, because I always start with clean. Although I've got pedals on the board, the only thing that I always have engaged, this is a fact, is I have a smidgen, tiny little smidge of digital delay, slapback. Yeah, just a little bit of slapback, which I don't know if you can even hear it, can you? Probably not. It's probably on 0. Anyway, that's the reverb on the amp you could hear there. Oh yeah, tiny bit. Apart from that, I've got pedals on the board. I've got the Warm Audio Centavo still, and I've got the Nobels ODL1 still from last week, because they're quite nice, to give it an extra bit of drive if I want to when we're jamming in a little while. But to start with, yeah, this is the point. To start with, it's all going to be clean, okay? So what you're going to hear is the pickups are going to be on 10. And I'm going to play a little bit on each guitar, obviously, on each setting, on, mainly the bridge and the neck settings. And you'll be able to see, because I've got enough cameras on this. So you'll better follow what I'm doing. And we'll try and get a little bit of comparison. So I'll stop talking and just see what comes out. We'll start with an E chord, shall we? Yeah, they're both pushing quite hard. P90s are pushing harder than these, but these are they're still compressing nice, aren't they? Try the neck. It's nice, isn't it? there you go. A little mishmash of stitched together, largely recycled, well, completely recycled ideas. I'll be the first to admit that there's a little bit too much recycling going on in the playing department. Well, on the channel as a whole, for my liking. But it's pretty difficult coming up with fresh inspiration for playing every week. This is about the 240th film I've made in as many as probably 250 weeks. So, yeah, think about that. Think about that. It's what am we going to play this week? Oh, it's nice when a guitar shouts at you, yeah, play this, because you know the guitar inspires you to play something that you think, oh yeah, that would be good. I'll have a listen to that, and you every now and then I come up with something new, and you know, I'm not saying that wasn't half decent, the playing. I mean, the playing is meant to demonstrate the guitars, isn't it? Well, the pickups in this instance, and I think we did a pretty decent job of that. But as far as inspiring me personally, these guitars were difficult. I mean, these are specials, okay? So if you Google who played Les Paul specials, the list is, I mean, Peter Tosh, I think, from Bob Marley and the Wailers. And I think that was it. You know, I mean, a lot of people have played them, but not as their main guitar. So I went a little bit with, what did I go with there? Well, I went with the Clash. That was my main inspiration because obviously Mick Jones probably played a Les Paul special. He certainly played Les Paul Juniors. I went with, I'll do a bit of Clash again. So that's one of my favourite. I've got a lot of favourite Clash songs. That's one of the Clash songs that I jam on from time to time. Complete Control, incidentally, if you didn't recognise that. And then it was like slim pickings. I was mucking around. I thought, what else? And I ended up doing a bluesy bollocks based, and I wouldn't even say loosely, but based around Just Got Paid. You know, but it always works, doesn't it? You know, if in doubt, bluesy bollocks, it is. There you go. So the guitars, I mean, I will say this, that I love both of these guitars. I really do. Well, maybe love's a little bit strong. I really like both of these guitars. But I don't really find either of them especially inspiring. They sound great. I mean, they do sound great. I've got to admit, this Epiphone, this expensive Epiphone sounds bloody great, doesn't it? If I'm going to criticise it, it won't be because it's got an open book headstock, because I've done all that, haven't I? I've done all that when I reviewed this. Both of these guitars, incidentally, have been reviewed. Links are in the description box. So if you want to find out more about either of these guitars, that's where to look. If my criticism of this is the neck pickup. Although I did say, oh, it sounds bloody nice. It does sound nice. A little bit woolly. I thought that was a little bit woolly. You know, with the rig setup that we were using today. But that's a pretty bright setup that I'm using. But I thought that was a little bit woolly. So I think that this guitar, I think that could do with a nice little mini humbucker in the neck. Because these mini humbuckers sound, well, they sound really quite different, don't they? They're very bright. They've got a real single coil bite to them that the P90s don't have. They've got highs that the P90s don't have. They compress like full fat humbuckers. So they're quite a distinctive sound. So I think, yeah, I think, well, definitely mini humbucker in the neck there. I think this guitar would sound wicked. As far as the mini humbuckers themselves go, they're obviously not as powerful. They're not got as much output as these P90s. So given that I was using them on the same settings, they could have done with a little bit more tweaking. You know, they could have been done. They could have been done. They could do with the rig dialing in a little bit better for to get the best out of them. But that's always the case with anything that I review on here. Any guitar, any pickups, you know, often need dialing in properly. Sometimes we got a sweet spot straight away. Funnily enough, that's often with the cheaper guitars. They sound all of a sudden great, probably because, you know, I don't know what that is, but yeah, on this occasion, a bit of dialing in could benefit both of the guitars really, but they both sound wicked, really. But I think the interesting thing was you can definitely hear the difference between these two, can't you? And I guess if you put the humbucker in this mix as well, you'd be able to hear the difference between the Mini Humbucker and the Humbucker quite distinctly as well. So yeah, that was good, wasn't it? That was P90 versus Mini Humbucker. So I think that's job done for me this week anyway. Originally I was going to actually muck around with them and swap the pickups over, but in the end I decided not to, because I'm not certain I'm going to keep either of these guitars. I think both of these will be sacrificed to the circle of guitars and make their way out into the world, into new homes. I'm not sure how. I think I might probably trade these or sell them. I haven't decided yet. As far as raffle goes for guitars made in China, that's a little bit of a tricky one, isn't it? Because there's these tariffs floating around, and it's a bit of a lottery as to whether or not we're going to hit with an additional $1,000 to import it into the States, where it'll obviously fucking end up, won't it? I mean, you know, I've done now 4 raffles, and all 4 guitars have gone to the States. I've got to say this though, at the beginning of this film I said that the SG was on its way to Brian Farris in Michigan. I shipped that on Monday. You're not going to believe this. I certainly don't. It's now Thursday morning. It only fucking arrived last night. So yeah, it's unbelievable. I don't know. Maybe I've got the hang of the paperwork now. But yeah. So yeah. Enjoy that guitar, Brian. It suits you, mate. That's all for this week. Come back next week and find out what we're up to then. I don't know. So come back, same time, same place, and find out. Yeah. I was going to say, let's find out together, but I'll probably know by then, won't I? Yeah. See you next week. Thanks for supporting the channel, by the way. Cheers.